Welcome to the Prop Show on Fantasy Points with Josh Chevalier. I'm Rick Kamla. Let's go. We got week 4 in college football right around the corner. We've got tasty matchups. We've got all kinds of props for you guys with the QBs, with the running backs, with the wide receivers. Even got a couple of tight end deliveries for you here. Josh, my man, it's fun competing against you in John Michael's fantasy league. You leapfrogged me this past week with your win and my loss. And so there's a lot going on here. We had a promising week last week, 17 of 21, 80-some%, whatever that is. And so, look, man, we're not going to have 80% every week, probably not, but we're coming off a good week. We're looking for more success here heading into week 4. But JC, what's up, man? Let's go.
Yeah, Cam, man, I'm pumped to be on here with you every week. Is a gift to me. And so I'm super excited. And 17 of 21 last week. Let's see if we can continue to hit. I mean, it was a good week on Prize Picks for me last week. And so, I'm enjoying doing this show, and I feel like it's making me better personally in this game. And so I'm excited to continue to let's do this again tonight. See what we got.
I echo all of those sentiments, man. A couple of the better calls, at least from my side, Josh, and I believe that we both agreed on these. But KJ Jefferson against BYU, his number was 197.5, 247 was what he ended up with. We talked about it. The number was just too low. And then Haynes King. I mean, I actually felt like the limb wasn't that firm, right? We're at Ole Miss, but we're 222.5. He hit for 307. And Georgia Tech didn't cover, which sucked. And I thought they were right on the number, Josh, of 18. And then boom, a late TD went in for Ole Miss and took a push to a non-cover. But yeah, man, it was fun last week. So does anything stand out to you in terms of what are your RB calls, one of your wide receiver calls, or one of your QB calls from last week?
Yeah, well, I one of your calls last week, Andrew Armstrong, right, who you stack with KJ Jefferson, and I think it was like 47.5, and he just smashed that. I was like, to be honest, so I went to go bet, and I was like, well, Tesla's a little bit cheap. He's like 42.5 yards.
Right.
So they're about the same. So I went Tesla, and I missed on a huge prop because I went Tesla instead of your boy Armstrong. I didn't have faith in us in that one. And, so I thought that was a phenomenal call. And then, there's ones like Quinshon Judkins where we went under on that. And that ended up being a really good one because he was, had that mysterious injury, things like that. So, it's been a fun week. I mean, Colorado has been good to us so far, and we'll see what we have to say about Colorado today. But, it's fun having Dion and Prime in the middle of prime time and all that, man. He's been fun to be able to bet on and things like that. So it's good.
I mean, if it was like some Barry Alvarez offense, right, with a bell cow back and 30 carries, 180 yards, 3 touchdowns, and like boring, right? No, they're throwing the ball through the air, putting up huge numbers, these exhilarating football games. I mean, literally, you had me and Josh at, CFB, but Dion and that whole Colorado thing has made college football this year. They've transcended. I mean, they're the top story in sports right now. So let's start there as we dive into our props for this week. Shedeur Sanders at Oregon, 335.5. Josh, where are you at with this number, over or under?
Yeah, I think I'm going under this week. Because with Shedeur Sanders, right? I mean, if you watched like both halves of that game, right? The first half he really struggled, and he turned it on in the second half and came back and hit his prop, but he didn't hit it by much. I think it was 341, and he got that in overtime. And in fact, you know how he got it? Did you watch the game?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So there's a 10-yard I think it was a holding penalty that ended up allowing enough yards for him to actually hit the prop. And that was against Colorado State. This is not Colorado State. We got a bit lucky with that one, to be honest. But, Oregon, they held our boy Tyler Shuck. They held him to 282 yards passing. That is a crazy good air raid offense for Texas Tech. And so, overall, Oregon's a top 20 pass defense. I'm just thinking they're giving up, 158.7 per game. to opposing offenses through the air. So for me, I think Shador finally comes down to earth, goes under 300 yards here, and yeah, I'm pretty confident in the under for Shador Sanders. But what do you say?
I am pretty confident in the under as well. We have an early agreement here on an under for the great Shador Sanders. I like what you said about the first half against Colorado State. Josh, I know you were watching Colorado at Nebraska. It was the same thing, right? Like, we're stuck in mud. The defense is winning. Like, we're not making these big time down the field swashbuckling plays. What's going on? Push a button at halftime, come out in turbo, and all that kind of stuff. Well, this is at Oregon, all right? It is literally the toughest matchup of the entire schedule for the Colorado Buffaloes. It will not get harder than this, Josh, and you know that. So that's going to bring the numbers down. I mean, Shador's flow, we're going down each game from 510 to 393 to 348. And I'm going under on this one. I mean, he may hit 310, 295. I mean, this is a big number at Oregon. And I think it's overinflated. I think this is a flabby number based on no Travis Hunter, based on at Oregon. So we're both under on this one. All right, talk to me about Bo Nix on the other side of this game. One of the hot games this week, obviously, is Colorado at Oregon. You got Bo Nix at 2.5 touchdowns here, Josh. You going over or under on that?
Yeah, so I'm going to go over on this, and here's why. The over-under 71, right, for the game. The implied team total for Oregon is 46 points, I believe. So you have potential shootout, potentially you have 6 touchdowns there. Bo Nix is going to stay in the game because Shador Sanders is going to, they're going to try to throw the ball again on the other side and keep up with them. 2 of the last 3 games to start this year, Bo Nix has 3 touchdowns in those games. The other game, he had 2 touchdowns, right? And that was against Texas Tech. So, and Colorado, kind of fun fact, whatever the amount of touchdowns the opposing quarterback is averaging, that's pretty much what they're giving up to that quarterback. And so if our boy is averaging 2.6 touchdowns per game, Bo Nix, then that's essentially what they're going to give up. So I think he gets the 3 touchdowns here. Here's the other thing. Those 2 games that he had 3 touchdowns, he played, I think, like 40, 50 snaps in those games. He had about 28 pass attempts on average in those 2 games. And so he wasn't playing the full games when he had 3 touchdowns. There's still meat on the bone for him. Now, granted, he only got 2 touchdowns in the other game against Texas Tech. But, I just think there's going to be plenty of opportunities for them to get it through the air in this game. Him and Troy Franklin, Bo Nix, I think is going to be money in this game.
So I would go over on this as well, Josh, and I agree with your rationales right there. So we agree on over on Bo Nix, 2.5 touchdowns. Oregon's going to light up the scoreboard, man. Colorado, I mean, their run defense is god-awful. Their pass defense has not been great. They've been in high-scoring games. They got to outscore their opponents. So I like that call. Now, let's shift to Bo Nix, quarterback of Oregon, and his passing yard prop on Prize Picks at 315.5. Josh, I'm under this one. Colorado gives up 265 through the air, which is a big number. It's still well below this number. Bo has been over this number in 1 of 3 games this year. He's been over this number in 3. He was last year over this number in 3 of 13. He doesn't usually throw for 300 yards. That's not where he lives. Obviously, Shador is on the other side of that. So I'm going under here on 315.5. How about you?
Yeah, so you made a really good argument there. And it makes me want to either stay away or, I was going to say over. And I think I'll still say over, but I really like your argument on this one, to be honest. And here's why. I mean, against the Texas Tech team when he had 38 pass attempts, he threw for 359 yards against Texas Tech. And that was, the only opponent where he really had to throw the ball this year. They do have new OC Will Stein coming in. He's a guy that teamed up at UTSA with Frank Harris. We know what Frank Harris did, and he wasn't a guy who threw for a ton of yards before Will Stein and Barry Lunny were there. And so, I think that this is a new offense. I think this is a chance for them to show that they have quite a dynamic passing attack. And I think all eyes are going to be on this game, and I think they're going to want to show something. But you do run the risk of this is a 21-point spread, right? So, and they're going to be able to run at will also in Colorado. So there is a little bit of risk in here. Like they're not going to have to throw, I don't think, for 315. And that's where I think you have, just a great argument here. So this is an interesting one, I think.
So are you stay away or over on this one?
I'm going to say over.
Okay. All right. I like it. I like it. We got a disagreement right here. We keep the tally on those as well. And I like the point that you made there, Josh, about if they're up. I mean, obviously, second half we're up 17 points or 20 points, whatever it is. They're going to try to run, keep that clock moving, and keep Shedeur off the field, and just keep that whole thing at bay. So a lot of stacking for me that leads to the under. All right, let's move on to Jordan Travis here. Huge game, Florida State at Clemson. This is like a potential big-time breakthrough game, right, for Florida State. We'll talk about the ATS side of this in just a second. Jordan Travis at Clemson. All right, 246.5. Josh, you know that Florida State are the homies, and you know that Jordan Travis is the homie. All right, I love these guys. I think they're going to win this game, but I'm going under this number. Last year against Clemson, he shot up for 254, but he's been over this number in 8 of the last 16 games since the beginning of last year. So we're at a coin flip. I don't like coin flips. He's been under this number in 2 of 3 this year, playing hurt, right, with an upper body thing, which buzzkilled him a little bit last week at BC. Clemson's allowing 149 passing through the air. To me, this is too big of a number, and it's not even that big of a number, Josh. This seems attractive and like really snatchable. I also kind of think this is going to be a low-scoring game. I think this is going to be 21-20, 23-20. I don't see a ton of points in this game, so I think we're going to have some punts and some defensive plays. But I'm going under. I'm fading Jordan Travis this week in the showdown game at 246.5. How about you?
Yeah, I'm with you on the under. It'll be interesting to see what his shoulder injury does. Now it's on his non-throwing shoulder, right? That he had the injury, but I do wonder if it's going to cause him to not run as much. Although that is the advantage, I think, for them in this game. Riley Leonard, right? First week, he went off running the ball on this team, and so I think that's the advantage. But I don't know if Jordan Travis does that. So then they got to beat him through the air. But 149 yards passing for Clemson. I mean, this is a team that can get after the quarterback, and I think that they have a good enough secondary to limit him in this game. So I'm with you on the under, but I do think it's going to be pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, and also, like we talked about with some of these other guys, toughest matchup of the year. It's not going to get harder than at Clemson for Travis and FSU. Similar exact thing with Kyle McCord at Notre Dame. 265.5 is the passing prop here on Prize Picks. You have the honors to go first here on McCord. You over or under 265.5?
Yeah, well, looking into this, I was under originally, but as I dug deeper, I'm going to pick the over, and here's why. Notre Dame defense gave up 260 passing yards to Brendan Armstrong. Now, I don't know. There wasn't a lot on during that first week. And so I watched UConn and NC State play each other. And NC State just lacks playmakers at the wide receiver position. So I think for them to be able to throw, for Brendan Armstrong to throw for 260 yards means that I don't know if it's a little bit of the fool's gold and kind of the tough pass defense that they've been playing. They played Navy, right? Navy doesn't pass the ball.
Correct.
They played Tennessee State. Incomplete on that grade on what that looks like. So NC State's the real test that we've seen. Now, Ohio State has playmakers at the wide receiver position. In fact, maybe the best playmakers in the nation. And so I think Kyle McCord's going to be able to get it done here. Because I think they're going to have to throw the ball because that's the strength. And so I'm going to go over on this.
I love it, man. I love it. Josh Chevalier, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Rick Kamla. It's the Prop Show on Fantasy Points. And I love everything you said right there. It's a word of loggerhead, though, because I got to go under here. McCord's flow this year has gone 239. That was the game at Indiana. Then we're at 258 against Youngstown State. Then we're at 318 last week against Western Kentucky. We're trending up each game. However, this is literally the hardest matchup of the year for Kyle McCord. I consider this even harder than the Michigan matchup because you're familiar with Michigan. You see them every year. You know it's coming, blah, blah, blah. And it's later in the season, right? He will have been tested. He hasn't been tested yet. At Indiana is not tested. You know, these home games against Cupcakes is not tested. This is going to test Kyle McCord. This is where the rubber meets the road or not. So I'm just looking at the spot at Touchdown Jesus at night. Great defense from Notre Dame. You've got a Heisman candidate quarterback over there with Sam Hartman. Can you keep up? Can you match strikes? I'm going to bet against that. I also think, Josh, that he's due for a regression after shooting up to 318 last week. So, I just see that kind of like, and then now it kind of starts to decline a little bit with this obviously tough Notre Dame matchup. Threw for 239 in his only other game against a Power 5 team. So this is fun. This is fun. We disagree on Bo Nix. I'm under. He's over. We disagree on Kyle McCord. I am under, and Josh is over on that one. All right. This one right here is going to get interesting. Jalen Milroe, quarterback of Alabama, benched, doghouse. Nick Saban, what were you watching in practice, bro? How could you go with Tyler? Look, I knew Tyler Buchner sucked watching him at Notre Dame, okay? Oh, the Tommy Rees thing. Give me a break. Total botchery by Nick Saban. All right, let's advance the story. We got Milroe back under center. We got a home game against Ole Miss. We got the walls caving in on Alabama. They beat South freaking Florida 17-3. It's DEFCON 1 around there. Josh, I am going over Milroe at 211.5. I am going over. He was 194 against Middle Tennessee with 18 pass attempts, all right? He's going to have to throw, obviously, more in this game. I do see a bit of a high-scoring game here. I think these teams will play at least into the 30s. He was 255 against Texas and your Longhorns, 14 of 27. Ole Miss allows 226 per game through the air. And, Josh, I'll check up here and get it over to you. I've been kind of staying away from Milroe, and obviously not for the USF game. You knew he was out and Buchner was going to be the guy. But even in the Texas game, which he played well in, like statistically, even though he had a couple of picks, I was like, I can't do it. I can't start him in fantasy. I wouldn't play the over on a prop here because I'm worried about the hook from Nick Saban. And we saw the hook after that game, right? So I'm not as worried about the hook, Josh. I think this is Milroe's gig. I think Nick saw what he saw from Buchner and Simpson and was like, all right, we got to go back to Milroe here. So I don't think there's going to be a quick cane around his neck if he throws a pick in the first half. I just don't. So I'm over on Milroe at 211.5, JC. Where you at?
Yeah, I think this is a pretty easy over. I'm with you on this. I mean, I think what you said about the hook is great at home. Man, Lane Kiffin always gives, Nick Saban fits and Alabama fits. And so they're going to score points and they're going to have to come back and score points on the other side. I think they're going to try to stop the run game, right? I mean, that's really the bread and butter of Alabama this year. So they're going to go all in on stopping Roydell Williams, Jason McClellan. And I think that leaves Jalen Milroe to have to win this game. And I think he can. I think if anything, he should have a lot of confidence coming into this game this week. And 211, we wondered if he could do it against Texas. And Texas is a much better defense than Ole Miss, in my opinion. So I like the over for sure.
All right, Josh, on the prop show here on Fantasy Points, let's move on to the running backs. And we've got Bucky Irving of the Oregon Ducks. Again, going back to the Oregon and Colorado Pac-12 showdown here. We got 80.5 rushing yards. Are you over or under on Bucky Irving?
Yeah, I'm over on this. I mean, Bucky's barely had to carry the ball all year. But, man, he's electric, right? I think with a guy like Bucky, he's the type of back that can get it all in one carry. So I like him. I mean, I think, again, if they get up 2 or 3 scores like the spread is, projecting, I think Bucky's the guy that they will appreciate as well. So, yeah, I like the over on this one personally.
I'm conflicted, but I got to go under, Josh. I got to go under. the reason why is one of the reasons I don't have Bucky Brooks on any of my fantasy teams is because we're all trying to get bell cows, right? I don't like guys from split backfields, even on prolific offenses like this. Irving this year is at 27 carries. Jordan James at 21 carries. Whittington is at 12 carries. So he's got two dudes, kind of eating away. And will they go to a two-back look now that they're in Pac-12 play? Maybe. But still, we got another guy there that we're battling for carries. Bucky's rushing yard flow, we've gone 119 down to 38, down to 59. So I get it. We got some non-conference games in there, and it's going to spike back up. But
Right.
he was 8-8 on this number over the last 16 games. 3 this year, 13 last year. Coin flip type of deal. So the one thing that hangs me up is Colorado sucks against the run. They're giving up 195 rushing yards per game. But I don't like the cluttered backfield. I do think this is going to be a Bo Nix special. And so I'll go under on Bucky Irving. We have 3 disagreements so far. This is getting dramatic in here. All right. Blake Corum here, Josh.
Yeah.
We got 83 and a half yards. We're at home against Rutgers at the Big House. I'm over this, man. He was 10 for 73 in the first game, 15 for 80 in the second game, and 12 for 101 last week. Last year, they did the same exact thing with Blake Corum. The slow ramp up against non-cons and teams that don't really matter. Boom, we get into Big Ten play. Now we're up to 20 carries per game. And obviously, Donovan Edwards eats as well. But I think that's what's going to happen here. I see minimum 18 carries. And if Corum's rocking 18 carries against Rutgers, he's going to hit for at least 100 yards and soar past this number of 83.5. Are you with me or against me?
No, I'm with you, man. There's no disagreement here. It's definitely over. I mean, how can he not go over in this game, right? Rutgers is an improved team for sure, but this is a game. This is where Corum makes his money, right? And so, yeah, I like the over here. Hey, we got a question here in the chat over here, so I wanted to bring attention to it real quick. Mike Lukovitz asked, do we like Milroe over 48 and a half rushing yards? What do you think?
If I had to play it, I would play the over, but I saw that number, was thinking about it, and I'm going to his game log right now so I can get these rushing totals and not guess. But in terms of rushing yards this year for Milroe, we are at 48 against Middle Tennessee. We're at 44 against Texas. So, Josh, I don't feel like I have an advantage here. I feel like it's a coin flip. It's in the mid 40s. I do see him. I see big plays through the air here, Josh. Not like 7 of them, but like 2 or 3 of them, right? We're going to hit Isaiah Bond on a big one. We're going to hit Jermaine Burton on a big one. Maybe Nyblack breaks a tackle and takes one, 40, 50 yards. So it's just to stay away from me. Like I vetted it in our pre-show process and that kind of thing, looked at it. It was just like, I'd play the over, but it's not a play for me. So how about you?
No, I 100% agree with that. I think this is one where, yes, if he can get this for sure, no questions asked. But man, it's one of those things where you bet the over on the passing and the over on the rushing, and you may get one and not the other, and it just feels a bit risky. I mean, it just feels a lot safer to me to just go 211, or if you got a combined, like some kind of like whatever 259.5 or something like that, I may hit that as an over because then you're combining that. But I don't know. You just never know. Like you said, it's a bit of a coin flip, and on coin flips, I just like to stay away from those.
Yeah, again, we're looking for advantages. We're looking for that wiggle room, that value, and I just don't see it with that number. I think it's a really good number. Like with Corum, I don't think that's a good number. I mean, I think I get it. It's going to be a blowout. Okay. Like I get it. Blake Corum's not going to play the entire game. I get all of that. Come on, man. It's 83.5. It's Blake Corum, arguably the best back in the nation. We're at home, beginning of the Big Ten schedule. He popped over Rutgers last year for 209. And so 83.5, I just don't think it's a good number. Jason McClellan of Alabama here, Josh, on the prop show with Cam and Josh. We're at home against Ole Miss. We're at 60.5. I'm under here. It's a small number, and I'm under. And last week, he shot up to 74 yards in the win at South Florida. But Roydell Williams flexed 17 carries, 129, one touchdown, may have left McClellan behind in terms of who the lead back in this offense now is, right? Ole Miss averaging 2.9 yards per rush against, so they've had a really good run defense so far. McClellan is 11-5 under this number in his last 16 games, and I do realize that includes splitting time with Jahmyr Gibbs last year. But just to give you an idea, he just does not go over this number. He hasn't consistently this year, so I'm under. And and Josh, for just redraft fantasy players here, like to me, Jace McClellan has been underwhelming. Roydell Williams should be picked up off of waiver wires right now because of that big game, and that wasn't 17, 129, and 1 against North Carolina A&T, right? Where you're playing like a quarter and a half. Like they had to play that whole entire game. So where are you at with Jace McClellan, 60.5?
Yeah, I'm gonna stay away because of Roydell Williams, to be honest. Like I could see him hitting 60.5 for sure. But Roydell Williams doubled his snaps last week. And if that's the case, like if it's either to me that Roydell Williams is passing him up or it's a hot hand approach, right? And I'm not sure which one, to be honest. And so, personally, I'm going to stay away because if it wasn't a hot hand approach, or if it's a high hand approach, then we just don't know going into the game which one's going to get more carries. And if Roydell Williams passed him up, then that's equally as bad. So, yeah, I'm going to stay away on this. Let's figure it out. After this week, I'll probably have more conviction on Jace McClellan.
It's a big game, obviously, as we analyze these backfields. And I mean, to me, and I think Josh would echo this, for those that play college football fantasy, okay, split backfields are not going to get you the championship. You got to get the bell cows, man. Like a Maccabee for Purdue, right? He emerged last year, a bell cow, getting all the reps, getting all the carries. Boom, nail it, right? Not having that good of a year this year, but you got to find these bell cows, man. And so as we talk about that, we go to a very cluttered backfield here. Josh, with Florida State, again, at Clemson, we've got Trey Benson, ballyhooed and hyped heading into the season. He has not backed that up with play on the field because we've had Toafili getting run. We've had Rodney Hill ascending in that running back room here. We're at 57.5. This is a Josh Chevalier joint. So where are we going here? Are we going over or under 57.5 on Trey Benson?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm going to go over in this. I think this is a game where they need Trey Benson to step up. I mentioned before that Jordan Travis, he has an injured shoulder, right? And it's a non-throwing shoulder, which means to me that he's probably not going to run as much if it's still affecting him. And so who are you going to lean on? Well, you're going to lean on the running game. And I think, where Jordan Travis may get a certain number of carries that he doesn't have this game, I think Benson, if they're going to win this game, it's not going to be Hill and Toafili winning this game for him. I think Benson, they're going to have to ride him. He's going to have to be the back he was last year because he's been, to be quite honest, he's just been disappointing this year so far. But I think this is the game that he goes over. So less about the stats and more about the feel and the narrative of what I think the game will require for them to win. And I do think that they'll win this game.
All right, so this is a stay away for me, Josh. It's an attractive number. He's an attractive player, right? 6'1", 211, looks the part. He just hasn't quite been that dude this year that I thought. So I don't trust it. It's a stay away for me. If I had to play it, I would play under, but it's just a stay away for me. So JC's telling you over on Trey Benson here at 57.5. Carson Steele, running back, UCLA. They're at Utah this week, folks. 70.5 is the number, and I'm under this number. The Utah defense has been awesome against the run, and they played Florida. They've played Baylor, okay? They've had a big boy schedule so far, so those numbers matter. 65 yards allowed on the ground, 2.8 yards per carry allowed on the ground. And we right here, guys, have a 50-50 split backfield with UCLA, with Carson Steele and TJ Harden. Steele 30 carries, Harden 25. Steele has 243. Harden has 233. They both have 2 rushing touchdowns. It doesn't get more down the middle than that. This is the toughest matchup of the entire year for UCLA. If you're going to play overs on UCLA players, this is the worst week of the entire season to do that, okay? at Utah, who always plays awesome defense. And it won't be, I think it's a day game, Josh. Correct me if I'm wrong. And it won't be deep in the season where it's all cold up there, but it's still at Utah. So I'm under Carson Steele at 70.5. How about you?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm on the under here. I mean, there's just too much risk for all the reasons that you just mentioned. Split backfield, tough defense. It could be this is the Carson Steele breakout game, and he shows that he's the guy. But again, now we're betting on something that we just haven't seen yet necessarily. He hasn't had to do it. Uh, the one thing that makes me a little bit of a pause to be super confident is that do they try to run the ball quite a bit with this being Dante Moore's first road test, right? I think that's the one thing that you don't go smash the under on this. You just go, all right, yeah, like this should be under. But with Dante Moore, again, first test, but man, Dante Moore looks legit. So, I don't know. They might just come out trying to guns blazing and throw the ball against Utah. So there's that too. So yeah, under here. I'm on the under for sure.
Like I kicked the tires on UCLA at Utah against the spread and all that, and it's just a bad spot. It's Dante Moore's first road test at Utah. It like that's just telling me to stay away. Like if Dante Moore and UCLA had a chance to really build up momentum in the Pac-12 schedule, and we're going to Utah like a month from now, I'd have a different view on this game. I might have a different view on Kyle McCord at Notre Dame, right? But when this is your toughest test, and we haven't seen you shine on a platform like this, nah, man, I got to stay away or I got to fade you. And so talk to me about Will Shipley here. Going back to the Florida State and Clemson game, we're at 19.5 receiving yards here, Josh. Where are you at with Shipley on these receiving yards?
Yeah, this is pretty simple for me. He's 4 of his last 5 games. He's over 20 yards in those games. And so last week was the one time he didn't go over. He had 7 receiving yards against FAU. I think he comes back this week, and they're playing from behind. I think they're going to need a big game from Will Shipley. I don't think they have, unless they're going to depend on some freshmen, they don't have dynamic receiving options there at Clemson, at least in my personal opinion. Like we saw that against Duke. So I think they're going to need Shipley to do some stuff in this game. So I'm going over on this. I think, and I'm pretty confident that he'll hit the over 19.5 receiving yards.
This came from Josh's brain. I like it. I like everything you're selling right here. It's an attractive number, guys. And look, I have Will Shipley in the league that me and Josh are in, John Michael's league, and Will Shipley has been garbage, okay? I almost pulled him out of my lineup last week, Josh. Almost, yeah. But he's Will Shipley, right? High pick, great resume. Almost pulled him out of my lineup, fearing that he would just dip his toe in the water and get out. And basically lost my game because of that decision. Like, I knew it. I knew not to go there. I went there. I stuck with the brand name, which usually is the right move, and it bit me. I was telling Josh, like, I just had a woeful week last week. My ATS picks weren't on track. I lost both of my college football fantasy games, but we were 17 of 21 on props last week, so there was that. A silver lining of sorts here on the prop show with Rick Kamla and Josh Chevalier. So I agree. I would go over on Shipley as well. I actually kind of like that one a lot, Josh. All right, let's move on to some wide receivers right here. Tell the people about Roman Wilson. We already like Corum here over, it was 80.5 or 83.5. I think it was 83.5. Smash that. But Roman Wilson here is at 53.5 receiving yards at home against Rutgers. Where are you at?
Yeah, so he's hit 2 of 3 weeks. He's hit over this 53.5 mark. I do think, too, they really haven't had to play much in these games. I mean, they've had a pretty soft schedule. UNLV, Bowling Green, right? Like, these aren't tough opponents. And so he's not even not even really having to pass the ball, and yet he's having a lot of success so far. This is their toughest opponent for sure. It's just a low number. Roman Wilson, to me, is the top target on the offense pretty clearly, and he's dynamic. And I think J.J. McCarthy, this could be the game where he really shows that he might be a top 3 quarterback in this draft and a first-round pick in the upcoming 2024 draft. And so I think this could be a way for them to be able to get him, some numbers. Roman Wilson and Cornelius Johnson, I think they have basically 50% of the receiving yardage for the wide receivers there at Michigan. So that's not including our boy Donovan Edwards. It's not including Colston Loveland, but just the receivers. And so they have a large target share, though, of the receiving core receiving yards. And so, if they're passing the ball, it's going to Roman Wilson or Cornelius Johnson. I think you can hit over on both of them. I just think uh, Roman Wilson's just a little bit safer to me than Cornelius Johnson. So I'm going over.
Again, I like it. You have won me over on this one. And we know that Roman Wilson, Michigan, obviously a run heavy team. We get that. But they do like to run, lull you to sleep, hit you with play action, hit you with a big ball. And so Roman could hit this on one play. He could literally go, 163-1 and you're in with this 53.5. I like it. All right, let's move on here to Troy Franklin, number 1 wide receiver for Oregon at home against Colorado. We're at 85.5 receiving yards, and I like the over here. Our flow this year has gone 106, 103. Last week, 83. We have no Travis Hunter to guard him, okay? And so that's obviously very beneficial. Clearly the number 1 for the Oregon Ducks. Colorado's giving up 265 through the air like we talked about. So he's just a prolific guy. Troy Franklin last year got busy with Bo Nix and was flirting with 100 yards every week. We're right back to doing that again here, flirting with 100 yards every week. We've got what should be, a high-scoring game or at least a lot of touchdowns on the board, a lot of chain moving. And so I like 85.5 here, Josh. Are you with me?
Oh, this is my smash of the slate for sure.
Talk to me.
In DFS, Troy Franklin's my favorite player this week on the Saturday main slate. I'll talk about that tomorrow on our show there. But, I just think, you're talking about a guy that's barely had to play in the first 3 games, and yet his lowest output is 83 yards. Again, I go back to Will Stein. Will Stein loves to feature his wide receivers. And Troy Franklin's the clear number 1. That was Zachary Franklin's role at UTSA. 85 yards is nothing in this type of offense. Like you said, with no Travis Hunter, I don't know who's going to guard him. And they don't really have anybody else. Cormani McClain, the 5-star true freshman, is struggling right now just to grasp, just to be able to get on the field. So Troy Franklin's got as clear of a path as I can see on this slate.
I like everything you said right there, Josh. So you may want to step out with an extra unit or two on this one. But we're both liking Troy Franklin over 85.5 receiving yards. It's the prop show on Fantasy Points. Rick Kamla, Josh Chevalier. Let me hit you with one that comes from the attic, aka my brain. Tavion Robinson, wide receiver for Kentucky, at home against Vanderbilt. We're at 48.5. Going over this number, Vandy allows 241.5 through the air. Tavion is the clear number 1 for Devin Leary. And we've gone 14 for 263 scores on the year. The number 2 wide receiver in the Kentucky offense has 109 yards. Our guy Tavion is at 260. There's no doubt who gets the rock in this offense. And his flow has gone 38, 136, and 86 with the receiving yards. So we're over 2 out of 3. We were 10 below in, some game against a Slappy earlier this year. But Tavion Robinson, in his 7th year of college football, 48.5, Josh, I'm over this one. How about you?
Yeah, no, I hadn't seen this number yet. So this is great. Definite over. Tavion Robinson, the cool thing about our Liam Cohen's offense, the OC at Kentucky, is he loves to feature the slot receiver. So if you're an NFL fan, Cooper Kupp is your man, right? This is a guy that from a Rams tree, the Sean McVay tree. You know how much Cooper Kupp, I think it's 88% of his productions out of the slot. Tavion Robinson is the slot for this team, and it's been clear now, right, that despite having more talent on the outside with Dane Key and Tavion Robinson, with Barry and Brown, they're going with Tavion Robinson in the slot as the guy that's getting the targets and getting the production. So if you get 48.5, think about what teams have done against Vandy so far this year. They are all hitting the over on this. So I don't know. Again, like I just said, the smash of the slate is Troy Franklin, but man, pair these boys up and make some money.
Go over to Prize Picks, mix and match, parlay, and we're trying to keep the hot hand here. Hopefully, it is a hot hand, and you can keep your hot hand. Talk to me about Max Clare, tight end for Purdue, going up against Wisconsin. We're at 33.5 receiving yards. Josh.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy, after the first week, he was pretty quiet against Fresno State. But then his last 2 weeks, he's got 60-plus yards in the last 2 games. He's a guy that they play a lot in the slot, although he's a tight end, right? He's kind of that big move tight end for them. And so I think 33 and a half is a pretty easy number for him to get to, like no problem. I mean, 60-plus yards, and that's a pretty pretty big cushion for us to be able to get to 33 and a half. So I think he hits it for here for sure.
So I'm gonna stay away on that one. The Wisconsin defense scares me. Just typically, it's just not a defense that I attack. Your rationale is fantastic, and I'm just to stay away on that. I don't trust Hudson Card either. I don't know. It's just not one that I would personally recommend. But I wish you luck with that, my friend. Now let me throw Cade Stover at you. All right, let me throw a tight end at you. Ohio State tight end. He's at Notre Dame here, 31.5. I'm over this number in 2 games against FBS teams. All right, Western Kentucky and Indiana. And then the other one was against Youngstown State. But the 2 games against FBS teams, he's gone 5 for 98 and 5 for 90. The North Carolina State tight end, Juice Vereen, hit Notre Dame for 4 catches and 65 yards. He was the top receiver for North Carolina State in that football game. And Juice Vereen is not on the fantasy radar, folks. Trust me, okay? You may be this week picking up Westover off of waivers or picking up Harrison, the tight end for Colorado that spiked and frankly kind of sort of won the game for them. You're probably not hitting up Juice Vereen, okay? Cade Stover obviously should already be on teams in redraft leagues. But, Josh, I'm over 31.5 on Cade Stover. I'm fading McCord at 265.5. But I think within there I can still hit the over here on Cade Stover at 31.5. How you feeling about this one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised by this 31 and a half number based on what you just talked about with, all right, he played FBS opponents and he hits basically 94 yards a game. And I guess I realized the Indiana game. I didn't realize I watched the Western Kentucky game, but I guess it was more focused on, the 2 outside wide receivers. That's crazy. I mean, this seems like a pretty easy one. I mean, Juice Vereen is a true freshman, right, over there at NC State. And again, he lines up in the slot more than anything else. So he's a little bit different than Cade in that way. But if he's hitting 65 yards, yeah, why can't Cade? Again, for Cade, this is 1 catch potentially, right? I mean, this is a guy that he's good at yak and he's had quite a few long receptions. So yeah, I love this one. Good pick.
Cool. Appreciate that, my brother. So we're both here on Cade Stover over 31.5. Hopefully he hits. Keon Coleman, Josh, talk to me about Keon Coleman. Had a massive week 1 against LSU. Kind of going the wrong way. Obviously, it's Florida State at Clemson. We're at 69.5 receiving yards on the Michigan State transfer, Keon Coleman. Where are you at with this one?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go under on this one, right? He had the the goose egg last week. He had 0, and I think Johnny Wilson is the wide receiver 1 there, despite just the absurd game that Keon Coleman had in that first week. But 69.5, that's just a tough number to get to anyways. And so that it just feels like an under to me. I think Johnny Wilson, he's at what, 74.5, I believe. I would be more inclined to take that and an over than I would Keon Coleman. Like it doesn't feel that safe to me right now. And he was pretty upset last week that he only got 1 touch out of the backfield and then 2 targets. He put some subtweets out there. So I don't know, like a little bit of a diva. Maybe they try to feature him because of that, but maybe also they're, like, hey, we're not going to feed into this negative behavior. I don't know, but I'm saying I'm going to go under or stay away. I would not choose over whatsoever on this one.
You've won me over here. I like the under on Keon Coleman. I think in the NFL, when you throw a spasm on the sideline and throw me the damn ball, whether it's like a Terrell Owens or Keyshawn Johnson, and you're highly paid, right? You're on your way to the Hall of Fame. Those guys usually get the rock. In college, I mean, we already know it's kind of like, that most of these coaches are my way or the highway. Pushing and shoving and bickering and fussing and fighting probably isn't the best way to get what you want in college football. Just saying. All right, let me throw at you here, Josh. Xavier Worthy at Baylor, 78.5. I like the over here. Worthy is trending down, and I like that because he's due for a big pop game, Josh Chevalier. His flow, he went 7 for 90 yards against Rice, 5 for 75 against Alabama, and then last week, 4 for 56 against Wyoming, which was a weird game for Texas, right? You're kind of in it, you pull away. Jonathan Brooks played really, really well. But I just think he's due, Josh, right? He's a stud. Clearly, they're number one. You've got a good matchup at Baylor, who's not good this year. I think being on the road, I like, right? Because it's not going to be Texas winning 50-13, maybe a little bit of a closer game, which is going to keep Texas throwing the ball and keep both sides of their offense on the field as opposed to just chewing up clock with the running game. So there's a lot of reasons why I like Xavier Worthy over 78.5. How about you?
Yeah, this is a tough one for me. I would either stay away from this. I mean, part of the stay away from me is just which Quinn Ewers are you going to get, right? Like, is he going to be the one that can get Xavier Worthy the ball or not? And he wasn't last week, and he wasn't the first week either. I mean, obviously like 90 yards, but like he did that a lot of underneath. And so, I'm going to be inclined to stay away, but I will say this, and you're in defense of your over. Baylor got torched by Texas State in the first week of the season, and Texas State loves to throw the ball down the field. They take deep shots. And so if Quinn Ewers can find Xavier Worthy on just one deep shot, then he's going to hit the 78.5 over pretty easily. So I would not go under on this at all because I think it's either going to be a stay away for me or he's going to smash, and maybe Baylor's susceptible to those deep shots again if Quinn Ewers can hit them. But you got to be able to trust Quinn, and we'll see.
Cool. I hear you, man. And then one more I want to lob at you here. Luther Burden, the number one wide receiver for Missouri, on a neutral field against Memphis this week, 77.5. I do like the over here, Josh. Clear number one for this Missouri offense. 22 grabs for him. The number two receiver has 11. His flow has gone 7 for 96 above this number, 8 for 117 above this number. And last week against Kansas State, a really good opponent, he went 7 for 114. So we're living over 100 yards or right at it. We're at 7, 8, and 7 in terms of the catches. Clear number one. Cook is playing pretty well as the quarterback for Missouri here. So I like it, man. And looking into Memphis a little bit, their defensive numbers look great. They haven't played anybody. Like, they have played nobody. Okay, now they're playing an SEC team in a neutral environment here, and I think Missouri is going to pretty comfortably win this game. It's not like an ATS delivery, but I'm just not impressed with what Memphis has on the football field this year, and I think Mizzou's going to exploit that. So Luther Burden, 77.5. Where are you at with that one, Josh?
Yeah, I think this is a smash over. I mean, I think Burden's been underrated quite a bit this year on the markets, and I think the markets just don't take into consideration recruiting pedigree. But Luther Burden moves into the slot, and he's just dominated this year, right? He looks very comfortable in that position. They're getting him the ball, and there's lots of ways for him to win. And I like him on the 77.5 over. I mean, Memphis could score enough points here to keep this close enough to where he's going to have to stay on the field. And so why not? I mean, I think between Burden, Stover, we have Franklin, right? You have Tavion Robinson. Those four alone, I think you could put a $10 bet down and win 100 on a 4-player parlay on Prize Picks this week. And those feel pretty confident to me. between those 4 picks. You could pretty easily get that. So those are just, one combination they can use, and that's just at one position, man. There's so much else out there. I think there's a lot that we've talked about tonight that some advantages that we have in this market, like you talked about. Like, man, just seems like there's some edges here, and hopefully we'll see after this week, but hopefully we hit some of those edges tonight.
I like what you were saying a lot about that parlay. If I had 10, I mean, obviously, I've got $10, but I would play that if I could. I'm in Florida. We can't bet down here.
Yeah.
So we can do some DFS stuff, but we can't like actually bet, which sucks, but it is what it is. All right. Before we get out of here, Josh, and you tell everybody about a lot of the amazing stuff on this platform. Let's talk about some of the big games this week. And let's go to the biggest. It's Ohio State at Touchdown Jesus. Ohio State laying 3. They started laying 7.5. A bunch of Notre Dame money has come in. We're down to 3. Where are you at with Ohio State and Notre Dame, Josh?
Yeah, this is a tough one, and here's why. I don't think Notre Dame's played anybody, and I don't think Ohio State has either. And so you're, like, what are these teams gonna be like? And I personally think I'm gonna have to take Notre Dame +3 in this one personally, because I just trust Sam Hartman, kind of like what you talked about earlier. I think you alluded to it. Like, Sam Hartman seems to be a little bit more trustworthy to me, and this Audric Estime a little bit more trustworthy. I think that defense, although they haven't really been tested, I think they're actually pretty good, at least good enough to hold Kyle McCord back some. So yeah, I'm gonna go Notre Dame here, man. I'm gonna go on that side.
I kind of, well, I'll just say it this way. I am surprised that Ohio State is favored in this football game. With Kyle McCord, right? We've got Sam Hartman, veteran guy, definite NFL quarterback. Is he a hot shot? Is he a 10-time Pro Bowler? I don't know, but he's going to the NFL in some way, shape, or form. And he's been good for a minute, prolific. And I don't know, man. I just think that, I'm not saying mismatch, all that kind of stuff, but I just don't like the line. I mean, I think Notre Dame has a better football team. I know they have a better quarterback. I don't even think that's debatable. So I like Notre Dame here. I loved them at +7.5, right? I still like them at plus a field goal. I will take the points at home with Notre Dame. Josh, Florida State has a rather big football game here at Clemson. They started +2.5. Bunch of money's coming on Florida State. Most of the betting actions come in on Florida State. They are now -2 at Clemson. Who you got?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm taking Florida State here -2. I think -2 at that point, you're basically saying it's a money line type deal, like it's a pick 'em, right? And I think Florida State pulls this off. I mean, I don't know. You can't convince me that Cade Klubnik and those wide receivers have gotten on the same page that quickly, that they just figured it out against Charleston Southern, who they actually struggled against in the first half of that game, and FAU. So, I just can't trust Clemson at this point. And Florida State, I mean, Mike Norvell, he lives for these types of games. I know they didn't win last year and they disappointed and they flopped in some, but I think that they're up for this game. And I think that that Florida State's they're gonna cover this one.
I like where your head's at with all of that. Look, Cade Klubnik was not good at Duke. He was not. And that was the first game of the year. Okay. And he's gotten better over the last 2 games, right? We're playing cupcakes at home. Okay. Big deal. You should. These are scrimmages. Now we're at home, but now we're back in the pressure cooker. We've got one of the big boys of college football. We've got a team that's, frankly, I think Florida State's more talented overall than Clemson on both sides of the football. So, again, I'm not saying Florida State's going to go in there and dominate. Nothing like that. I think they're going to win the football game, and I think it's going to be kind of ugly. Like I said, I don't see a ton of points in this game. Both of these defenses are amazing, and in a game like that, a little bit like Ohio State and Notre Dame, both of those defenses are amazing. I will take the better quarterback. In an NBA game, right, we got 2 awesome defenses. Which team am I going to go with? I'm going to go with the team that has the better shot makers, because you need shot makers against tough defense. and you need
Yep.
better quarterbacking against better defense. So I will take Jordan Travis in Florida State here, minus the 2. One more, and we'll get out of here, Josh. Is Deion Sanders, Shedeur Sanders, Xavier Weaver in the Colorado thing going to Oregon and winning? They're getting a ton of points, Josh. It started Colorado plus 15. Okay. It's now Colorado plus 20.5. Tons of Oregon money is coming in here. People, I think, are anticipating this is the bottom fall out. Colorado gets blown out. Deion finally has something go wrong in his life. Where are you at with this one?
Yeah. I think, man, I hate that I'm with the rest of Oregon fans and thinking that, yeah, they should be able to win this one pretty easy. I do think the bottom falls out for Colorado this week. They're going to get that offensive line is going to get Shedeur Sanders killed at some point. And it might be this week. I just think Oregon's going to be able to get some pressure on them. I think they have a good defense. Dan Lanning's going to call a good game. I mean, I do think that there's talent on the other side with Colorado, but man, if Kamara is a good pass rusher for Colorado State, but he was feasting in that game against Colorado. And, Oregon's going to be able to put pressure on Shedeur Sanders, and I just don't know if they're going to have a counterpunch in the second half like they have in previous games. So I'm going to take Oregon in the points.
I mean, I agree with almost everything you said right there, especially second half, we had a rescue job against Nebraska. Second half in overtime, we have a rescue job against Colorado State. That's Nebraska and Colorado State, two of the, I don't know, they're just not very good. And now we are at Oregon, one of the absolute big boys of college football. Colorado's not going to win this football game, okay? But, Josh, I'm on the other side of this. If it was still at 15, I would take Oregon. It's at 20.5. I'm going to take Colorado to live inside that number at 20.5. So because of the line movement and all of this momentum towards Oregon, that literally has pivoted me back over to Colorado. I do think they're going to be competitive in this game. I mean, I don't think it's going to be 50-17. It could be 44-28, right? I don't know. So somewhere where we're scoring, we're kind of in it, and then they pull away. Maybe they get a turnover and a field goal, and then a methodical run. And then now we've gone from 7 or 8 up to 17, 19 kind of thing. I think they're going to hang. I do. So I will take Colorado plus the 20.5. One disagreement here on the ATS side. All right, Josh, we got to get out of here, man. Tell them all of the great stuff that we have here on Fantasy Points. Promote what you got, man.
Yeah, man. Well, every week we got weekly rankings for CFF, right? We got projections for every DFS slate and every FBS team on the CFF side. We got matchup reports. We got articles. We got tons of them. We got your ATS articles. We have prize picks, props articles. We got DFS for every multi-game slate. So we got a ton of stuff. And here's a fun little nugget. Through the first 3 weeks of the season, our projections are actually number 1 in CFF right now.
Whoa,
so,
cool.
Yeah. So we're really excited we feel like we're putting out a quality product. And, we just want to help people be able to make some money and have fun doing it, man. So I feel like we're trying to do that and just want more and more people to join us.
Josh, you the man. Fun once again. Great job. And good luck with your picks. Good luck in college football fantasy redraft leagues, John Michaels League. You and I aren't playing each other yet. So go get a win, go to 3-1. I'm going to try to get a win and go to 3-1. And eventually we will play here. And that will be the Clash of the Titans. So for my guy, Josh Chevalier, for Tom Tipple, doing a great job producing the show and engineering, I'm Rick Kamla. Thank you for joining us on the Prop Show. Enjoy week 4 in college football and good luck with all these wagers. We'll see you next week.